Good morning, everybody. This is CAD 212, Architectural Apps in CAD, on Monday, March 7th. Today in class, we're going to be reviewing for the midterm, which will take place at Wednesday at 9 a.m. We're reviewing before that, the layout, and just some basic information on what to expect on the midterm. And then we'll talk about some issues in CAD that I've kind of found in reviewing people's projects and open the floor for any open questions that you may have. So I'm not sharing my screen right now. I'm just going over some basic information for the midterm project that is due today. Originally, I had that set to be due by the end of class today, but after reviewing some progress of people that they've turned in already, I did decide to extend that deadline. I've given you till 10 o'clock this evening to get that in. If for any reason you have to turn it in after that deadline, remember the best grade that you will get is a B. But for anybody who turns that in by 10 o'clock, if you have a perfect project, then you do qualify for an A. So I do want you to be aware that you have an extended deadline for the midterm project, and that is till 10 o'clock tonight. Once that's turned in, then you'll study for the midterm. The midterm exam is going to be very laid out, just like this project was here. You'll be given a floor plan. And that floor plan, you're going to have to duplicate the floor plan in Revit using the exact parameters per a sheet of instructions that you'll be given, all this on Canvas. And I know we ran through this last class, but I just want to refresh your memory again. You will need to create interior and exterior walls per the exact instructions and exact measurements that I have requested. You'll need to do the same with the slab and your finished flooring. You'll also need to create ceilings. You'll need to create a roof to the exact specifications that I have, which includes making either a hip roof or gable roof. You'll have to change the size of the roof, the slope, and the overhang. And you may need to add soffit fascia and gutters. You will need to know how to import doors and windows correctly. And you will need to know how to create a site. And creating a site is not just using the site tool, the topography tool, but it's actually removing that site from the inside of the house. That's what I find a lot of people in the past when taking this exam have lost points on, is they've created the site, but it does include actually finishing up and removing that from the interior of the building. You will need to create sheets. You'll need to create a floor plan sheet, 2 elevations in one sheet, and a site plan sheet. You should remember the numbers of those sheets. Remember, a floor plan is a A201, an elevation sheet with 2 elevations would be A301, and your site plan would be A101. And then you're to upload all the model and all your PDFs to Canvas. So it's really straightforward. It's a much smaller model than a lot of you have been working on right now. I haven't had anyone in my past classes have an issue with completing that. So that's pretty much exactly what's going to be on the exam. I'm going to open the floor to any exam questions, and then we'll jump into specific Revit questions. Any questions about the format of the exam or any concerns about it? Okay, cool. If anything does pop up after, shoot me a text and I can get back to you. Also, before we go into Revit information, I did get a chance to go over all the projects that were turned in for your progress. So I did get it. Excuse me, it's early. I did get a chance to make some comments on that. which is good because that does not, what you turned in does not constitute your midterm exam, your midterm project. You can go back, make those corrections, and then turn in the midterm project per the midterm project mod, and that'll help you out as well. So please go back and check that, and then make sure that you do turn in the midterm project on the midterm project mod. That is also live right now. Okay, that being said, here's a couple of projects that I was reviewing. A couple of things that I caught on these projects. It looks like you still have a view box open on here on this. I didn't take off for this view box on here because we didn't really talk about that, but we'll talk about that a little bit on the second half of this semester. What did catch my eye on this particular sheet was the pattern on this roof. That would not be correct. So let's jump to 3D and see what's going on with that. Let's jump to 3D. So also, and this is another thing I was just referring to, in this project here, you do have your site plan created, but notice that that site is still within the house. This is the problem that would get taken off for. So let's fix that, and then we'll go back and fix the roof. So got something weird going on here. How do we fix this? Remember, we're going to just flip the entire model over. We can hide the slab if you want to. Now you can see you have the site here. You have your finished floor that you created here. We're going to jump to massing and site tab. And this is when we're going to use the split surface tool. So we're going to click on split surface.
You need to share the screen.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Gosh, I'm so bad about that. Thank you. Thank you. All right, well, this should make more sense to y'all now. Okay, so this is what I was talking about. Let me jump back to this elevation here. This pattern on this roof, it looks off. It shouldn't look like that. So this is, it caught my eye within this this sheet that was created, and then also this box around this sheet. Not this one, not the larger one, but the smaller one. This is a view panel. We didn't talk about that, so this may be a strange setting that you have in on your project right now, and we'll learn how to correct that later. So I did not take off for this, but this pattern on the roof is what caught my eye. That looked odd. So in order to correct that, I jumped to 3D, and when I jumped to 3D, I noticed that the site was not created correctly. We still have site within the building. So that's when I turned the building over, the whole model over, to get access to the bottom, hid the slab, and now when I use my split surface tool, I'll click on split surface, click on the site that I want to split. Then I'll draw the shape of what I want to split. I want it to be taken specifically out from the inside of this building. So I just trace the exterior walls. I'll hit my green check mark. When I hit the green check mark, notice that interior section of site is still active. It's still blue. At this point, I can just hit delete and it's gone away and I fixed my problem. If for some reason I forgot to just hit delete right away, then it looks like I still have a site piece here and a site piece here, which would be actually the topography. So at this point, I'm going to grab this topography that's inside the building. Now it's active, and now I can just hit delete again. So it's all those steps that you want to take in order to get that right, or to get that topography removed from the interior of your building. Now let's go ahead and turn everything back on. We've got our slab back in place. If we make that active, now we can see through the interior of the house. But we still have this weird pattern on the roof. So we need to find out what's going on with that. So let's click on the roof, make it active. Let's jump into our properties and type selector. So here it looks correct. It says roof basic 12-inch. Whoever created this did create a new roof because they've got their initials behind it. So that's okay. So let's go into edit type and find out why it looks weird. We'll go into edit again. Okay, so the material they use to create it is acoustical ceiling tile. That's why it's got that weird pattern on it. And it's a square pattern, which is why it's a square pattern there. So if we go into here, yeah, it's set to acoustical ceiling tile, but the color was changed to brown. Okay, so you tried to change it to an asphalt shingle, which would be good, but it was preset to an acoustical ceiling tile. So maybe the error occurred by not creating a new material. So I would go back and just create a new material, rename it. Browser, and you can go ahead and select that same roof tile that you had before. But since it was let's see if I can find that first. Actually, I can pick anything right now, so I can, if I don't find that one that someone used. Let's just use something obnoxious like this so we know it changed. Oh, that's ugly. So we'll use our render appearance here. So now it's not going to be that same acoustical ceiling tile. It'll be the new one that I created. And when we jump back out, this is what the consistent color appearance looks like. If we switch to realistic view, that's what our realistic view looks like. That hideous carpet pattern that's on there. But you get the point. It was just the fact that when you created that, when you tried to make it the correct ceiling tile, the correct roofing tile, you did not start with a new material. So always start with the new material, and there's probably just a learning curve there trying to get that correct. But obviously easy to correct and save some points on your midterm project. So let's take this and hide here. On this project here, it looks like the ceilings are still missing. So make sure you do your ceilings. Floors. You have 2-inch floors here. It looks like you created your own floors. I can jump into that. 2 inches might be a little thick because it's going to interfere with, see how it cuts this door right here. This is just minor stuff that this person has done. But if you can correct it from the get-go, it just makes your life a little bit easier, because this is, I would just basically just switch this to 1/2 inch. And then you have it offset 1/2 inch. And I think that would actually give you like some of the smaller bits. It'll look a little bit better. But then again, this is just a model. So I don't see anything else on here that's jumping out at me, really. Here's our floor plan. A couple of things on the floor plan. Maybe align these dimensions so they run along one plane so they don't look as busy. Just little things like that make it not look as busy on the eye. Some little tweaks like that. And then for whosever project this is, don't forget to poche these walls, and we'll do a quick poche again. And it just finishes it off and makes that sheet look a lot better. So let's take a look at the sheet before we do that. So we've got our floor plan sheet here. That laid out. Let's go back to our floor plan level 1. We'll select the wall, right click, select all instances, visible in project right now. That's selecting all your interior walls at once. Now we're going to right click, override graphics in view. We can do by category, which is the same thing. And then we're going to go to cut patterns, change that to solid fill, and change that color to black. And apply, and it's selected, and it did all the walls at the same time when we did select all elements. Oops. Let's do that again since I hit escape instead of OK. Override graphics in view. Let's do by category. Solid fill. Black, OK, and OK. And then when we jump back to our sheet view, you'll see that just looks just that tad bit sharper. Just adjusting the placement of some of those dimensions just makes it easier to read. It doesn't look as busy. And then just adjusting that poche on the wall. Sometimes you'll want to use it, sometimes you won't. It is required for this one, for this midterm project, just because it makes it pop a little bit. And I want you to know both options, how to do that. I'm going to go back and correct this dimension right here, just so it's in line with these other guys down here. Just little tweaks like that, just polish it off really nicely. And whoever's project is this, before you turn it in, make sure you put drawn by your initials, and then you can use my initials right here, which is MCM. So catch that as well. All right, who else do we have on here? Let's see what we got. This project still needs a lot of work. You do not need to worry about the second story, especially to get that finished by today. So, you know, you can drastically reduce that because the main project is to one story. I appreciate you trying to get the second story done, and it looks like the progress is good, but there's a lot of progress that needs to be made before you turn this in. A couple of tweaks that I can catch right away. Just this flooring looks odd. So I'm going to click on the flooring and see what's going on with that. Okay, edit type. So the floor is just 1 3/4 inches thick. And okay, so you tried to do it structurally, which is great, but we don't necessarily have to do that for this class. What we're just going to do is just do, you could just make 3/4 inch oak flooring, so you can delete this plywood sheathing. But you are missing your slab altogether, so you need to add that slab as well. So when you go back in, and you can just delete the plywood sheathing, you can leave this as 3/4, but for this finished floor, you're going to have it offset from the height 3/4 inch. So it will sit on top of the slab, and then go back and create your slab. That's answers for that. See, On these windows, they are backwards, they're inside out. So you're gonna want to flip those around. Remember, in order to flip those around, you're just gonna go back to your floor plan and click these toggles and just kind of flip them. Now it looks correct. Now when we go back to 3D, you see the difference between the two. This is what caught my eye, that we have a ledge right here. This would just be a great place to pool and collect water. Now we have that straight plane where it'll shed all the water off of this exterior window. That's how I caught that. And then just trying to train your eye so you can catch these things that look different. So here you can see what it looks like correct. Here you can see what it looks like inside out. Because when you're just laying this out and you're trying to get it done for class, you don't always correct that. But as you come back to 3D and you see things that look weird, these things should jump out at you. You should be able to correct them really quickly. So the same with this door. This door is inside out as well because we have this flooring shown here. So let me jump through to level 1 again. And here we can flip those. And flip those. And that'll look better. I don't have anything else I want to go over with y'all today. I see a few people put stuff in chat. Let's see what's. Okay. Okay, it's a lot of questions. First question is, I did a viewport and site is selected. One of the rooms, the doors are not pocket, but when I go to load family, the double doors are too big. You should be able to change the size of the double doors. We'll take a look at that. And then for my porch, that opening wall instead of having a wall at all, so my ceiling is not visible. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but let's take a gander at it, or guess at that. So for the size of the doors, if we're looking at the doors, we should be able to like pick some doors, and then you go into edit type, and you can change the size of the doors here. If you really want to get into the nitty-gritty of it, there's width, height, all this other stuff that goes in here. You can see there's a lot entailed with that. So you can play there. You can also do this drop down here, and depending on the type of door that you've imported, you can import a different size door. Also, when we do some of these doors, if we go to door, we go to load family. Go to US Imperial, go to doors. I'll go to residential. I'm trying to find the one that looks like that. Door, exterior, double. All right, so that's the same one. So when I double click on here, it's going to give me a type that I can select here. I can select all these different sizes at this point. So this one's 64 by 84. Obviously, if you wanted a smaller one, you could select the smaller one. It's got the overall dimensions here, and it's got the dimensions here. If this particular door type is too big for the area that you're using, then I would suggest using a different door type. But you can't change the size of the doors either by selecting a different door and picking it from here as an option, or when it gets loaded, You can also pick another door size at this point. If you wanted to do just a 30 by 84, you could use that door there. Or if you select the door, go into edit type, you're going to duplicate and rename it, or all the doors will change at the same time that are the same type. But if you just wanted to change that one particular door in that one particular area, you're going to duplicate, rename it, and then you can change the dimensions of it here. So let's just change that to 2 foot. And notice how that became a much smaller door. So you can definitely change the doors. It makes things a lot easier. So you can change the size of that. And as we get into the second half of the semester, we'll learn how to change the colors of the doors and things like that. As far as openings go, let's put a wall up. I forget which class this was covered in, but remember, we can cut a hole in this wall. I just added a new wall on that floor. So let me jump to 3D so we can see what that looks like. Okay, so there's a solid wall. So if I wanted like a giant opening in this wall, I want to edit that wall itself. So there's a couple ways I can do that. Which way is that wall facing again? There it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide. I'm going to take a full left view of this. I'm going to hide this front wall. All right, that's the wall that I want to edit. At this point, I'm going to go to Edit Profile. Here's the profile that I want to change, and I'm just going to create the shape that I want. You're going to want to know your dimensions when you're doing this. This is why it's good to measure the size of your walls for your house. Let's do that at 2 feet there. And I have this match at 2 feet over here. And let's bring this up to, well, 4'11" is not great, but I'll just leave it there. All right, so that matches there. And I'm going to put an arc on here. So right now you can see I have a wall section here, all this, but if I try to close it right now, it's going to give me an error. It must be a closed loop. It must be a closed set of geometry in order for me to create that. So I'm just going to continue sketching, and I'm going to use this start end radius arc to create an arc. Start, end, and then radius. And you can see I can create any kind of shape that I want. If I wanted like that goes up to 7 feet. And if I do my check mark here, now I have a really nice arched wall. So that is how you create an opening in a wall if it's beyond just a regular door opening, which also is available in your door components. Let's see, anything else in here? Ready to keep family saved in Revit. I find that I keep adding them when okay. When you start a new project, yes, every time you start a new project, you're going to have to reload stuff. Everything, when you start a new project, period. Let's just start a new project now. We'll get a file, we'll get a new, and always start with an architectural template. This new model will only start with a limited amount of information that's already preloaded into this architectural template. All the other stuff that you created in another project is not going to transfer to this new template. So if I went to, like I just have got a bunch of projects open here. So if I went to doors, it's still only going to be the original door type that was originally loaded into this architectural template. So it's great because it transfers that within the project that you're currently working on, but it's not going to move from project to project. If you start a new one and a new architectural template. once you get to like something that's very advanced, or if you're using that a lot, you can set up different templates that will have different types of floors, doors, settings, etc. Preloaded into the template that you create. We're not creating templates in this class. We're just learning how to walk before, how to crawl before we can walk. So if you got to a point where you were really advanced and wanted to create your own templates, you can have that all preset in there. But for these projects, for their basic Revit program that we're using right now, it's very project specific. Hope that makes sense. Let's see, anybody else got questions? Are you sharing the screen? All right, now there are questions on here. But any other questions, anything anybody needs help with from this past semester? And I'm happy to go over that with you now. Okay, great. I'm glad it does. Wonderful. Any other questions, y'all? You can unmute yourself and you should be able to talk. Let me make sure that's set to that. You should be able to. There you go. Any questions?
Yeah, can you go over how to do the different roof styles again? Just how to do like the hipped roof versus the gabled?
Great question. No problem at all. All right. So this is that new project that I'm working on. So I'll just jump back to my architecture tab. I'm going to throw up just those walls there. I'll use just a simple rectangle on this point, and I'm going to make a hip roof on this side, and I'm going to have a gable roof on this side. So in order to do that, I would jump to my architecture tab, build panel roof tool. Yes, I do want to move this to level 2. And say I want to put a 2-foot overhang on here. I'm going to change that to 2 foot. I know on this side, I want to have a slope. So there's going to be a slope symbol there. There's going to be a slope symbol there. And this is going to be a hip roof. So I want this to be a slope also. This is going to be a gable roof where it goes like a peaked roof all the way up. So I do not want a slope on this side. So I'm going to uncheck define slope. When I do that and come back here and I'll click on that, it still gives me the 2-foot overhang, but notice that that slope symbol is gone. So now with that set, I'm going to go ahead and hit my green check mark. I don't want to attach the walls because I like to do that the long way. And then I'll have something that looks like this. This is the gable roof where I turned off that define slope. I unchecked that define slope button. And that is the hip roof where I left the slope on it. Now I can go ahead and select the wall, right click, select all instances visible in view. All of them are active. Attach top to base. Click on the roof, and all my exterior walls are attached. So that's the difference between the two. Let's go back and click on the roof and go to edit footprint. And if I wanted to actually change this back to a hip roof, notice slope sides. Click on here, make it active. Go back here, click on define slope and my green check mark again. And now when I go back, I've got a hip roof on both sides. If I wanted to change the slope of this roof, remember, click on it, make it active. Now we go to properties, scroll down in properties to dimensions where it says slope. This is a 912 slope. If in class for the midterm, you're instructed to create a 312 slope, and you just change that to 312. So easy fixes. Any other questions on that? And all that's, I'm sorry.
Professor Martin, hi. I have a question for you. It's not in reference to a roof, but it's in reference to topography.
Okay.
I've been following along with the lectures because of nature of work and things like that.
You're
I
right.
was able to do topography after reading comments from that you placed on the project for me to go and fix it.
Mhm.
But I find that when I went back to the video and looked at your example, for some reason I was not able to do that in that format, how you did it on the lecture. So I'm wondering, I had to make those edits while I was actually building the boundary for the topography. So is there something perhaps maybe that I perhaps did incorrectly? Because whenever I build the boundary, I can't make it active
All
for
right,
some reason.
I'm not sure without seeing your project, but let me go through the exact steps now, and hopefully that will help. I'm going to go back to the original way we're supposed to be creating site, and that actually also included creating boundary lines. So at this point, I'm going to go to my site level. I'm going to change this scale. These are so close here. I'm just going to pull them back a little bit. But you want to try and keep them in line as possible, because if I moved it over here, you wouldn't be able to see the houses. So I'm just going to move them back a little bit to give me some more room to work. All right, at this point, I'm going to go to my massing and site tab. So the first thing you actually want to create is a property line, because when we get to the second half of the semester, we're going to be using property line a lot more. You're going to have a specific site to work on and a specific size site. So when we're in property line, we're going to create that by sketching. And here you can draw out the size of the lot. So if you're given a specific lot size, and you will in the second half of the semester, you can create that. And then to finish that, you just hit the green check mark. And that way we have the size of the lot already set. Now we're going to go back to massing and site tab, and we're going to use our topo surface tool. Now with that active, we're just going to click on the corners of our property line and hit our green check mark. And that gives us our site. At this point, you want to make this active. Notice the material is here. You're going to go into by category, which is going to bring up the materials browser, and you would create grass at this point from here, just creating a new material at this point. So then that would look like grass. Now I'm going to jump to 3D and see what's going on there. So in 3D, looks good from this angle, but when I look at it from the bottom, I still see that site that's inside there, which is the problem, which people forget and we need to remove. So at this point, we need to use our split surface tool. So we're going to come up to our massing and site tab, modify panel, and split surface tool. Click on split surface tool, click on the surface that you want to split. It's going to look like this at that time. Then we can just draw the shape around the exterior walls of the house and hit our green check mark. That's going to stay active. It's going to stay blue at this time. I can just hit delete and I'm done. One of the things is a lot of people forget to hit delete, and then we still end up with the fact that there's two different sites here, and they just have to go back and click on that, make it active, and hit delete. And then when we come back up and over and we hide our roof, we've got a perfect view through it, and their site is set correctly. And second half of the semester, we'll be using split surface and subregion a little bit more. But it's just real important to get that down, how to manipulate that and how to remove that site from the interior of the building. Does that make sense?
It does. I'm trying to. I don't know why I follow those exact steps, but I just could not make it active. I mean, I found a solution to fix it, but I just had trouble trying to make it active. I had to add the grass to it in the process of setting the topography boundary, because I tried creating it and then clicking out of it and clicking it to make it active, and it would not give me the option to make it active. I kept clicking maybe about a good 30 times and nothing. So I mean, I was able to figure it out, but I just couldn't follow, following the example that I saw online.
Yeah,
Another lecture.
yeah, without me seeing your work live now, I wouldn't be able to figure it out. The best thing I can say is if when these type of things happen and it's too hard to edit it, delete whatever you're working on and just draw it over. I mean, Revit is great as far as like being able to edit something quickly, but sometimes if it's not working quickly, it's better just to delete whatever you're creating and just do it over.
Okay. All righty.
Cool. All right. Any other questions, y'all? All right. If no other questions, yes,
This is
Gary. Yep.
sorry, the specific thing. I don't know if anybody else is having this issue. When I did my elevation sheets, my east elevation for some reason was like,
Didn't
when
show.
I posted it was hiding a wall.
Yes, I remember seeing that on someone's project. I did make a note of that on someone's project. Let's take a look at that. And there's probably a couple things going on with that. So I'm glad you brought that up. Let me jump back to that. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead.
Whenever I pulled it up today, now there doesn't seem to be any house on the east elevation. Was the only one acting this way. Like all the others.
Totally remember seeing that on someone, so it must have been yours. So that has to do with these guys right here, these elevation markers. So you said east elevation, so let's work with our east elevation. So if we click on this elevation marker and we double click on the end of it, it should bring us to an image that looks like this. And this is an image that we should have brought into our sheet. So you can check on all your elevations to make sure they're there. But on your sheet, it totally looked blank. So on our east elevation, this is what it should look like. So let's go back to level 1 and mess with this little guy here and see what's going on with that. And that has to do, it usually has to do with this view space or the placement of this elevation marker. So if I just brought this right here and dropped it here, let's see what happens when I go back to that elevation. Now it's cut at this point, right where that elevation is. It's kind of giving me a section view because it's intersecting there. That's definitely not what we want. So I go back to the level 1 and I make that active. If I move this placement of this, even if for some reason, if it ended up being placed back here, and it happens randomly, it happens every semester. That's not something that you did. It's just, you may have clicked something and drug it and it just happens. So let's go back to our east elevation.
Yeah, that solved it. Thank you.
Ah, great. Okay. So yeah, and then sometimes it might be the placement of these guys too. Like if we select this whole thing and we move it over here, and we go to that east elevation, it may look strange if it doesn't right there, but it usually has to do with the placement of those elevation markers and that view line. So I'm glad that got fixed for you. Any other questions, y'all? If anything does come up, I am available today. Get your project in by 10 this evening. You have plenty of time to get that done to correct those few little errors that I was able to mark and catch on your projects that were turned in. But if something comes up and you have a question, text me. If I can get on and help you live, I can do that. And that way you can get that corrected before you turn your midterm project in today. And then otherwise, everyone must attend the exam live. It will be Wednesday at 9 a.m. It'll be on Canvas. It'll become live right at 9, and it'll shut down at 11:30. We went over exactly the content of the project, so you shouldn't have any issues with that. And then it'll shut down at 11:30. So that's pretty much it. And then I'm not going to be on live. You just automatically take the exam. If something does come up and you have a question during the exam, call me and I'll try and get on the phone with you because, sometimes, I'll miss a text, but if you call me, I can try and catch you and help you during the exam. Usually people don't have that issue, but I will be available if you have a question during the exam, but I will not be on screen to walk through it with you. But that's pretty much about it. And yeah, get all that knocked out and we'll start a new project next week. So take care, y'all.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Bye, y'all.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.